What's happening, sports fans? Happy Friday. We have finally made it to the weekend. It's not been a terrible week, but it is just nice to be done with work, at least here. We are in full preseason mode, and it is making for some long days. The weekend is here. Still be some long days, but they are long days highlighted by USF football tomorrow, Buccaneer football on Sunday. Both are promising to be pretty I don't know if I should say interesting. Bucs game Sunday is promising to be interesting. Tomorrow, article by Joey Knight today really, I think, put it well that this game versus South Carolina State, we hope is not a true test. Hope the game is fairly in hand by the time it is winding down, but anyone who has been a University of South Florida Bulls fan knows there is no such thing as a gimme. And I have college football scores up in front of me. An absolute brutal football game last night. Rice and Charlotte, two teams that are on the University of South Florida's schedule this year, should be wins. I mean, those looked like really, really good high school football teams. Just looked terrible. And I don't know if flipping back and forth between the Bills and Dolphins game, which turned out to be a heck of a game, is what did it for me, but boy, did they just look terrible. And USF does have Charlotte after the bye week following South Carolina State, and then Rice to end the season. Hopefully my cruel words to Rice do not come back to bite me. Not too concerned after watching last night's game. Of course, USF with South Carolina State, we talked they are reigning MEAC champions. They gave South Carolina a better game than it may appear at first glance, 38-10 final. Again, back to the article that Joey Knight put out. It was when I was in college. I want to say it would probably be 2013. Indeed, it was. I believe this was the second year of the Willie Taggart era. Second or first. I think it was the second year where in 2012 there had been not a lot to get excited about. Chattanooga, Nevada wins to start the season and then lost all but one of the remaining games. And no, that must have been Taggart's first year, now that I look at it, because this is a trip down memory lane that's not necessarily going to be a fun one. Ended the year with a 27-3 loss. It's harder on ESPN to find out who the coaches were. Bear with me for a quick internet search. Willie Taggart, USF. Was that McNeese State game his first one? Let's see here. Willie Taggart, still a running backs coach at the Ravens. Like that for Coach T. By all accounts, a very, very nice guy. 2013 was his first year at USF, so that was what all the hype was about. The 2013 season. You got a new head coach. You got some guys to be excited about. You got Tommy Eveld under center. You come out and you don't just lose the game to McNeese State. You get your doors blown off. 53-21. It was 33-7 at halftime thanks to a 31-0 second quarter for the Cowboys. I remember very vividly that was the first USF game I ever got to attend as a member of Bulls Radio. Lots of excitement around it. Coach T was virtually on the cusp of tears in the media room post-game and doing his press conference, and I don't blame him. I mean, that's as demoralized as I've ever seen a football team. Bulls would go on to win 2 games that season, at home versus Cincinnati and on the road at UConn. Of course, things would get turned around fairly quickly. Won 4 games the next season, and then 2015, things were good. Aside from a game I also remember very vividly, just getting trounced by Florida State. I'm digressing quite a bit. This is all coming back to say it feels like as USF fans, getting to the point where these games should not make us nervous. If the team shows up that beat Boise State 34-7 at Raymond James Stadium, if the team shows up that beat Florida 18-16 in the Swamp, they will be fine. And to be clear, if the team shows up that lost to Miami 49-12, they'll be fine too. I think they are taking South Carolina State seriously. They have enough experience that they will not look them over before heading to Charlotte. And then the first real conference test of the year on the road at North Texas we'll definitely keep an eye on North Texas. Said their convincing win versus Washington State. We'll get a better idea of them this week as they travel to Army to take on the Service Academy at another noon kickoff, same time as USF is going. And on the other side, a little bit of improvement on the injury news. Emeka Egbuka back at practice. A lot of different guys brought in along the offensive line, going to see what they can compile to try and keep Baker upright this weekend. Again, Bucs still 6.5-point favorites. Vegas not really of the opinion that whatever mix of the offensive line it is, that it's going to make too big of a difference, but it would sure be nice to keep our quarterback healthy. This is a very long season, and we need to do everything we can to keep that guy in one piece. It was not a good step in that direction last week as much as he got banged up in the Texans game. Hopefully they can do a little bit of better job, though they're going to be missing some very key pieces. There was a great recap of a story by Kyle Brandt, and I want to see if I can find that. He was talking about Baker Mayfield, and I think it is kind of encapsulating something I touched on last week, that Baker really feels like the Bucs guy, like a Tampa guy. Even though he is not from Tampa, he feels like he fits in. And this anecdote from Kyle Brandt, this is when I think of, the people I know, and I selfishly maybe like to lump myself into this, but the people that I think of, those are true Tampa people. Those are true St. Pete people. That's what Tampa Bay is about. It's people who can have fun, have a good time, still treat people well, and get back after it the next day. Let's listen to what Kyle Brandt told John Middlecoff today on 3 and Out with John Middlecoff.
My Baker story is, for the last 2 years, I work like the Pro Bowl games. It's a really fun event to go to. I go down to Orlando. I take my son. We just mess around. And this year we stayed in the Players Hotel. I took my son out to Orlando. Orlando is just a series of child attractions lined up next to each other. We get back to the
100% true. And I'm going to interrupt Kyle Brandt quickly. Orlando, friends there. Great things to do there. People hate on Disney. It's a blast. It has become just an absolute circus as it pertains to getting anywhere. I digress.
Hotel kind of late. It's the night before the big games the next day. Big lobby bar, loaded with people. I don't see any players except for one, who is Baker Mayfield, physically forcing people to put things on his tab. I got that drink, pick up their drink, pick up theirs. Not even like his teammates, just people around the bar. Next morning, we got to get up early for breakfast. Baker is in the breakfast restaurant at the hotel, working the tables like he's a groom at a wedding. And by working, I mean meeting kids, signing hats, comes to my table. Oh, is this your son? How you doing? I'm Baker. I'm not naive about this. I've been around athletes all the time. I have never seen someone hit it that hard at night, work the crowd, and then the next morning is like the president, and it's totally authentic. I loved it. There were no cameras rolling on him. He just did it. And I think that's what people are seeing on the field.
That's what I'm talking about. That's my kind of guy. That's tough to find. That's very Tampa Bay, if you ask me. And I think that's truly what we've got, including some accounts I've heard of Baker being spotted out. It's just kind of how he rolls. He's the life of the party, but he does it responsibly, and he doesn't let it slow him down any in the coming days. That's good. Bucs Jets coming up on Sunday, 1 o'clock kickoff. Opportunity for the Bucs, I think, to grind this one out. Lions still, as I mentioned, 6.5, and hang around. We've got to wind things down. Some more picks from Bets by Chase. We went 3-1 last week. I will also give you my 2 picks for our local teams coming up here. We'll just knock that out before we wind things down on the show. Bucs get past the Jets this Sunday. They will have to travel, the Eagles will have to travel to Raymond James the following week. Eagles are a team that are starting to get a little buzz. I heard an interesting conversation on Sports Talk Radio earlier today. The Eagles have not been throwing the ball much, and certainly not throwing the ball downfield much with any kind of success. Not a ton of people are super high on their head coach. Admittedly, this is a Philadelphia Eagles team that just won the Super Bowl. I am not naive. I think they are a very good team. They have started the year 2-0, beating the Cowboys 24-20, going on the road and beating the Chiefs. Some people think that this week versus the Rams might be an opportunity to expose them a little bit in some areas. I don't know. The Rams are a good team, but they're going to Philly. We will see. The Bucs will need to get some stability at offensive line. I think we will be able to know after watching this week's game versus the Jets what the Bucs are going to be able to roll out versus the Eagles the following week. But we'll move past that. They are really getting into the teeth of their schedule. Philly, then you go on the road to Seattle, who is not a pushover. Sam Darnold, I think, is settling in pretty nicely out there. You come back home. You got a Niners team who I believe will have Brock Purdy back by then. Then you go on the road to Detroit for Monday Night Football, and then you're at New Orleans. Bucs fans know Saints are down this year. Doesn't really matter. Saints are going to give us a game. That gets you into the bye. You come out of that bye versus New England, which is a game you like to think you can get. But there is a gauntlet coming up, and this game versus the Jets is huge to pick up that third win. You do that, and then you like to think you can split your next four, home with Philly, at Seattle, home versus San Fran, then on the road at Detroit. Take care of business with New Orleans, please, and you're still feeling pretty good about yourself going into that bye week. Again, if we're confident in what we see about the offensive line, I think there might be more of an opportunity there against the Eagles. Coming up on Sunday, that will be another 1 o'clock kickoff. Boy, surprised that game did not get more of a look for some primetime action. But the Bucs have plenty of primetime. I think we have 4 or 5 primetime games this season, including the Monday night game we just had in Houston. Very important game this Sunday versus the Jets. Let's take a quick look at the American Athletic Conference as we bounce back to the college side. Talked about it on Monday. This is a week that I think we're going to be able to learn a little bit more about the conference foes that we're going to be seeing through the rest of the year. Apologies, still fighting this new mouse. I got to get a mouse pad here and pushing papers all over the place. Embarrassing. I mentioned the Turd Bowl that we watched last night. Rice at Charlotte. Just caught some glimpses of that game, and boy, those are two not very good football teams. Rice picks up the win, 28-17. Tulsa at Oklahoma State tonight. Oklahoma 10-point favorites. Tulsa not a team that strikes a ton of fear. Memphis, very good opportunity to see what they're about. Another noon kickoff. They are playing host to Arkansas. Arkansas 7.5-point favorites right now. Arkansas coming in 2-1 on the season. They had a great game versus Ole Miss last weekend. Came out on the wrong end of it, 41-35. Have steamrolled Alabama, A&M, and Arkansas State before that. So an Arkansas team that has some teeth. Memphis, I saw today, I think on the FPI standings, has the highest percentage chance of all the group of 5 teams to wind up in the college football playoff. And it might surprise some USF fans to know I think the Bulls were 4th on that list, behind Memphis, Tulane, and one who's escaping me right now. I don't think Boise State's passed us that opening week. USF really put them in their place for this season, but so many of us, myself included, like to still think of USF as maybe not with an easy path, but still being the favorite to get to the conference championship and win it. That is not how the numbers are seeing it. That's not how a lot of the country is seeing it, so still plenty of work to be done. UAB going to Tennessee, not expecting UAB's a team we need to learn a lot about. However, at 3:30, Ole Miss hosts Tulane. And Ole Miss right now, 11.5-point favorites. I think that Tulane would feel pretty good about themselves coming out of that game, losing by only 10 or 11 points. Tulane does scare me a little bit. That's a team that has had our number when they are good in the past. 3-0 to start the season. They beat Northwestern at home. Close one with South Alabama, and then beat Duke again at home. This is their first real test, first-ranked opponent, and the first solid team they have played on the road. After this game, they're going to go to Tulsa, then have East Carolina at Army at home. As a reminder, USF and Tulane do not meet in the regular season. If those two teams play each other this season, it will be in the American Athletic Conference Championship. Temple goes to Georgia Tech. East Carolina hosts BYU. UTSA at Colorado State. UTSA, another team to keep an eye on. They are 4.5-point favorites at Colorado State. Played in a close game with A&M to start the year, and then got beat by Texas State, which I think surprised a lot of people who thought UTSA, if I recall correctly, UTSA picked to finish ahead of USF in the preseason coaches poll for the American Athletic Conference. That clearly did not go their way early on. A team, though, that you'll have to take seriously if you're USF as conference play gets moving. Let's talk a little gambling before we take a look at the NFC South. Want to make sure that I get these in. Do not run out of time as I have done the past couple of days. 4 picks from @BetsByChase on Twitter. You can follow him there. That is @BetsByChase. 3-1 last week. As I mentioned, we hit, and I say we, Bets by Chase hit. I read them. Had Georgia -2.5 on the college football side. On the pro side, had Philly -1, Cincy -2.5. All those hit. Only missed Georgia Tech point total. He had him at 24.5 and ended up being 24. Just missed that one. So coming up, we actually don't have to leave the American Conference. He has got Tulane individual team point total over 23.5. That is Tulane at Ole Miss. I like that pick. Tulane over 23.5. He has also got the total over for the game between Oklahoma and Auburn. That line is at 47.5. He likes the over there. And then we'll carry ourselves over to the NFL, get that schedule pulled up. He has got Washington -3. Washington this week playing host to the Vegas Raiders. Jaden Daniels a little bit banged up, but still think a pretty darn good Washington team will be able to take care of business after a bad showing from the Raiders, falling 20-9. I think that was Thursday night football versus the Chargers. Last pick for Bets by Chase gives me a little bit of heartburn. It is a money line pick for the Chicago Bears. Bears playing host to Dallas. Dallas 1.5-point favorites right now. Chase likes taking them outright. We are trusting Chase. I have already put a couple dollars on that game. Living here in the Quad Cities, the Bears are the number 1 team. The Bears have been on a run the last few years, very reminiscent of those mid-2000 teen years we talked about at USF. This team just cannot get out of their own way. Caleb Williams, very polarizing figure up here. Ben Johnson, I think, is a very good coach, but has his work cut out for him. There have been some quotes in the paper this week. Ben Johnson kind of questioning the gumption, if you will, of a lot of his players, saying that not all of them have winners' mentalities. That translates to they have losers' mentalities. But Soldier Field is a very funny place. Soldier Field, a place that has really ingrained in me to combat the argument against Tropicana Field parking that you hear so often. You want to find a hard stadium to get to? Go to Chicago. Drive from the suburbs. You can live 30 minutes outside of the city of Chicago. It takes you an hour 45 to get to your parking spot. Then you have to get on a bus and shuttle to the stadium. That's a hard stadium to get to. Sorry for the brief Tropicana Field tangent there. Again, Cowboys 1.5-point favorites going to Chicago. Chicago 0-2. I will say something that Bets by Chase might be onto. When the Bears are down, that is generally when no one's counting on them, they find a way to win. Matchup predictor on ESPN gives them a 46.3 chance to win. So as a recap, we got Washington -3, Chicago Bears money line. That's a dog pick. Over point total for Oklahoma versus Auburn on the college side, and Tulane team over at 23.5. Let's take a quick look on the NFL side on where the NFC South is going to be this week. Falcons going to be feeling good about themselves coming off the win versus Minnesota, and they go to another NFC South opponent, the Carolina Panthers. That is a 1 o'clock kickoff. Atlanta right now 5.5-point favorites. The Aints, where are the Aints? They are in Seattle. Seattle 7.5-point favorites. That's another line I don't mind too much. I think Seattle will handle them by 10 or so points. So we'll get to have 2 of our NFC South brethren beating up on each other, the other taking the trip out the West Coast to battle the Seahawks. So those are the picks for Bets by Chase, followed by a quick look at the NFC South. Taking a look at the Jets-Tampa Bay game, I actually like the Jets with the points. You can find it right now anywhere between 6.5 and 7.5 points. I think the Bucs win. I think the Jets cover. That is the direction I would be heading for that game. Now, I have to do a quick look here. As of a little bit ago, and by a little bit ago I mean a few hours, there was not a line yet for the USF South Carolina State game, which actually really surprises me. For anyone who is not very heavy into gambling, and there is one now. Fantastic. When there's not a line, that is generally a sign that the odds makers think the game is going to be an absolute thrashing. And they wait till very late to see if not as many people will bet on that game. I think there's some more reasons that a more seasoned and experienced gambler could probably share with you. That is just what I have heard. Quick note here as well, Oklahoma State up 3-0 on Tulsa early. I see the one line, and I'm not seeing USF on DraftKings. So DraftKings does not have that line, but on ESPN, they are showing USF to be 30.5 point favorites with an over-under of 56.5. That is anticipating a score, some quick math here, around 42-13, something in that range. I have seen a lot of USF Nation on Twitter saying that if USF doesn't hang 50, move the team. I don't know, just crazy things that I don't think are quite fair. Let's take a quick look at South Carolina State this season. 16-15, they beat Wofford. 38-10, they lost to South Carolina. That was a game with two special teams touchdowns. Got back at home versus Bethune. Bethune was able to put 41 up on them. I think 2 of those touchdowns were pretty late. If South Carolina State has anything, they have a defense. USF has not been a high-flying offensive machine this season. Even despite the 34-7 win versus Boise State, they have just not been firing. I think one of two things happens this weekend. Byron Brown settles in and takes his licks against the South Carolina State team, puts him down in the first half, and he's wearing shoulders, and we're feeling a lot better about the Bulls' offense. Or South Carolina State hangs around a little bit, if not competing, just keeps it a low-scoring game. I tend to think it's going to be the latter. I like the under in this game, under 56.5 points. I do think the Bulls win. I think we have another Bucs-Bulls win, bouncing back from last week when the Bulls didn't do their part, and we're feeling good about ourselves heading into a Victory Monday. That is going to do it for us tonight. I am going to be taking off here in just a few minutes. I'm actually going to have to wrap up a little short. We have got a Trampled by Turtles concert to go to, which I'm very excited about. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in this week. Appreciate you guys grinding through some less than stellar audio quality and some clicking, clacking, bouncing against the microphone. I think we have some solutions for that. And I've got a couple monitors, so I'm not going to have to keep flinging things around on my laptop, which would hopefully make my life a little bit easier and hopefully make the show a little bit more enjoyable to listen to. Again, happy Friday, everybody. Go Bulls, go Bucs. You've been listening to the Tampa Bay podcast.